into it. So, Chris, you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Recovery Scene. My name is Leslie, your host. Make sure you like and subscribe to hear more stories of recovery and hope. Tonight, I have Chris, and Chris's story is, I have not heard it, but just from going, so Chris, when did you first start with alcohol or drugs? And he goes, I was 8. I'm like, okay, so Chris started drinking when he was 8, or at least, had his first alcoholic beverage at 8. And like he said, it's safe to say it progressed and went downhill from there. So I'm gonna let Chris have the floor and take it away. Let's hear this. Tell us a little bit about growing up and what that was like.
Thanks. So my sobriety date, by the way, is January 10th, 2019. So
Very cool.
My household, my father was a drug addict and an alcoholic. So there was a lot of negative energy in that house. My father beat me and my mom all the time, and he never had any friends outside the house because every time he'd leave the house, he would just be a wreck and get into fights and whatever. And so I think when I was 8, all I really wanted, before I even get into that, before I even started drinking, I was always restless, irritable, and discontented. Mm-hmm. Right? Let's get that out of the way. I was always uncomfortable in my own skin. I hated to go to the family's houses. I hated to leave my room. I hated to go to school. I couldn't learn. I couldn't go up to the math board and do stuff. And, a lot of people teased me before I got big enough to do something about it. So that was just basically the early parts. So when I drank with my father the first time, it was literally just for acceptance, right?
Right.
I wanted my dad to be proud of his son, because I wasn't giving him good grades. I wasn't doing anything around the house, and I didn't have any friends. I was just this weird kid that lived in his room, right? So I did it out of wanting to be loved, you know what I'm saying? So that was we had the little 8-ounce cans of Budweiser that we all saw our parents drinking back in the 70s and 80s, so that's really how it started. And then by the time I was 9 or 10, I didn't really need my father anymore to drink, because I could forge a letter, go to the deli down the street and say, hey, my father needs some cigarettes, and just buy beer with my paper route money, and I'd go upstairs to my house in my bedroom and just drink in solitary.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and that's old school. You cannot get away with that now.
No, not at all.
Absolutely not.
Definitely not doing that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically, and it went on like that, and it went on like that for a while. But not only did the drinking continue, but the negative energy that I was sending off in school continued and got worse, because as my drinking continued and progressed, my insecurities got worse, because I wasn't actually tackling the problem. I was masquerading, because in all actuality, in my opinion, I never really suffered from alcoholism until after I stopped drinking, because for me, not drinking was, I couldn't use it as a crutch anymore. Before, it was just a spiritual malady that had manifested into something much more.
Right, right.
By the time I was 13, they were like, this kid can't make it in public school. He doesn't do any homework. He gets into fights all the time. And, his parents were always being brought down to the school. So they sent me up to this private school up in Nyack. I'm from New York. So went up to an upstate school in Nyack. And there were a bunch of kids there who were just like me, broken homes, problems at home. My mom had extreme mental health issues, and my father was very insensitive to the whole thing. And I didn't ever get to see what a man does to a wife when she's in need. All I saw was him objectify her and belittle her and beat her and all that other stuff. So it took me a long time to actually find out what actually loving a woman really is. So I caught a lot of my father's characteristics.
Well, yeah, that would make sense. I mean, that would make sense. What other role model did you have?
Exactly. Right.
Right.
So I'm up at this school now, And, I'm introduced to all this other stuff, right? Because before I went there, all I was doing was just drinking and smoking a little bit of weed, like beer, weed, typical 10-year-old diet. But here I am now, 13, and kids are bringing, like, I guess I could say the names. There was bringing cocaine to school, acid, mushrooms, hard liquor, moonshine, all that other stuff. And of course, me wanting to be accepted back from my father, I'm still using that same behavior then. So of course I would sniff coke, go rob the boat docks, steal a bus, and we'll go drive that around Nyack drunk at 3 a.m. just so the older kids accept me.
Right.
Like 13 or 17. And look at these 17-year-olds, like absolutely immortalizing me, this little short, chubby kid who, talks funny and can't do math. And now all of a sudden I'm popular because I'm jumping fences and stealing jewelry from a boat at 14 years old, and putting everything in my body just to be accepted.
Right. Right. Because we don't, it's almost like there is no us. There was no Leslie, there was no Chris. We have no idea who we are. So, whereas some people might play football because dad wants them to, or, whatever it is to get that acceptance and to fit in, ours unfortunately happened to be drugs and alcohol. That's where we found that magic elixir.
That's right. I totally agree. So I probably was about probably about 17 when the school district finally was like, this is pointless. I did get a high school diploma, right? Like I got one of those, like essentially, but if I had to be honest, I never did one piece of homework in my life. I don't know anything about schoolwork, and I might have like a 6th grade education, which continued. So as I got older in life and I saw people younger than me advancing, and stuff, a lot of jealousy started coming up and insecurities and not feeling like I was good enough. And that also stemmed more of my alcoholism and drug use.
Well, yeah, of course.
By the time I left, I was already, some hot shot, hanging out with all the street kids and, running around with their, all their weapons and doing whatever they were doing, vandalizing cars. So my behavior from the school manifested into my regular life when I got home, because that was just what I was used to.
Right. Now, while you were at the school, did you ever get caught doing these things, or was that not till later? Or were you one of those lucky ones that didn't get caught at all?
Well, the funny thing is some of the counselors were cool with the kids because they came from like some of the same towns. But like one of the counselors would know like 4 of the kids that were from Merrick, Long Island. So clearly, if you were hanging out with one of those kids and you got caught by that counselor, you might get a shot at getting away with it.
Right.
I mean, you got in trouble there, but it was like slap on the wrist. You have no idea how much the county of our cities were giving. They were paying. It was like a grant to send us to this school. So like our parents weren't paying. So it's not like they were going to get like, a complaint from the Better Business Bureau about being a shitty school. It was just basically whatever.
Right. Yeah. And also, before all the big school reforms and people actually started paying attention, people didn't really care. Your kid went to school and what happened. There might be parents here and there who would complain and hear about stuff, but nothing was really going to get done about it. I don't think it was until the late 90s, mid 90s, something like that, people actually started paying attention to the schools. Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, for sure. So when I came home, I always seemed to, no matter where I was, I always seemed to transition very well, up until recently. But when I came home from the school, transition right back into my regular life. In my household, there was never really any kind of promotion to go to school. So like, I never even knew what college was. I mean, I knew what it was, like, but I didn't like, oh, what college are you going to? No, I don't know. So it was just basically like, plus I was so insecure and thought I was dumb. I never even tried out to go to college because I was so like fearful of being laughed at still in class, So we didn't just do that. So basically I had to get a job, right? And I got this awesome job at a diner, and I'm working overnight, making all this money. And once again, I feel like the big shot. My friends from school are coming in and they're getting up tomorrow to go to college and complaining about it. And I'm going to wake up tomorrow with $300 in my pocket if I don't sniff it all and smoke it all.
Right. Assuming
Right?
it
Like,
stays there, yeah.
right? If.
Mhm.
And that went on for a while, right? And then, I did end up getting into some trouble, right? Because that's kind of like what we do in our addiction. We don't allow our brain to work. We allow our emotions to work, and my emotion told me, hey, go get high, go drink.
Right.
Tomorrow's another day. You'll be okay.
Right. Yeah, we don't think about anything past these 10 minutes.
I think I was more at the 5-minute range.
Right, maybe it was more like 5 minutes.
I didn't know anything. I was like, nah. 4 minutes, maybe.
Right.
My mind was on go. That's basically it.
Yeah, we're not thinking of consequences or bills or, we just rationalize it away.
Right. So basically, I get in a little bit of trouble. I'm trying to impress people, and I went ahead and I got a hold of some counterfeit money from someone that was, a patron there, I guess. You're a server by nature, right? I've seen you work at the Cracker Barrel thing, so
technically I work in the retail.
All right, but the waiters and they get comfortable with certain people that are there. So I was doing that, and
Cool.
all right.
Okay, so
yeah, we had a little technical difficulty. That's okay.
All right.
That's fine.
So yeah, I'm in the retail side, but I look at servers like, oh my God, I could never put up with what they put up with.
So the whole deal went, he was going to sell me a certain denomination of counterfeit bills, and for a discount price, and whatever I made off of it, anything over that would be a profit. And an addict hears the word profit with no work involved, easy, and doesn't matter what the result is. I'm all over it, right?
Right.
So we went ahead and we made that transaction. I spread some of the money around, and I took people out to the clubs, would go to the bars. I went to a couple of hotels in Pennsylvania with some women. Of course I want to play the big shot still. That was kind of like the ego was flaring hard then, right? Because I was like 80 pounds lighter and actually sexy, and now things are real tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it happens to the best of us.
Right.
I like nachos. What are you gonna do?
So I got caught, right? I was incarcerated, and things were, I did just under maybe 3 and some change, 89 or 90%. I was a kid, man. It was scary as hell, right?
I bet. What were you, early 20s, maybe late teens?
Yeah, something like that. I never really, when I share my story, talk about like the actual prison angle that goes along with it, because I don't like to do like the whole Oz meets Escape from Alcatraz thing, because
Right.
a lot of the things there are real, but a lot of them are also grossly exaggerated.
Mm-hmm.
So all I can honestly say is that there's actually no real prison reform and no rehabilitation in jail.
Right.
You just come home as a smarter criminal.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that I have heard that many times.
Just don't want to go back. You don't learn shit. You don't want to go back. That's the period bottom line. So that's how we did. I came home, and once again, like I transitioned from school to home, I transitioned from jail to home, and a lot of inmates don't have that same luxury. They have to go back to what they're used to in order to make a living.
Right.
They don't have like education in there like they tell you. It's like, well, I was there like 20 some years ago, so whatever they're doing now, God bless. They didn't even have AA meetings back when I was there. Uh, so when I come home, I knew that my bed was going to be there, my parents were going to be there, and everything was going to be okay.
Right, right. So you still living with your parents at this time?
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I got to pause. Can you pause 1 minute? I have to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
Back.
All right. So when we last left our hero, he had just gotten out of jail and he was able to move back home. And you're right, not, as a matter of fact, well, I don't, you know what? I shouldn't even say the majority, but I will bet you that not a lot of people have, you know, any kind of home life, you know, even a toxic one to go home to, you know.
Right, and it was the same thing when I got home. Like there was still the drinking, still the late nights, the falling through wall units, the smashing televisions, all that wild stuff. But I was older at that time, and I knew at that point I was big enough and had seen enough to be able to protect me and my mom. So it was cool.
Oh, gotcha. So now you could step in.
Right, of course.
Right. Right. Yeah, because every puppy grows up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But like I didn't learn anything there, right? Like it was just like school. It was just another, like my entire life, all I ever did was like run from anything that was hard or just build a barrier around anything that I didn't want to do.
Right.
And I did it in a mode, like I didn't really have any like motivation to do anything, but I just wanted to drink and get high, dude. Like it was like literally all I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much our motivation. I mean, I really think even those of us who have a good work ethic and are functional, it's because we know we need that money.
Right.
You know, on some
Right.
level, it's like, I'm not really doing this because I want to be here, you know?
Damn right. That's
Yeah.
definitely right.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens after, you know, so we've done our time in jail. Are we still working at the diner?
No, I got fired subsequently because the diner's name was in the newspaper. Well, I definitely didn't have that job when I came home. But so we're all excited for like some big Thanksgiving shindig.
Mm-hmm.
I've been home for a while. And of course I wanted to be the driver of the car, right? The night me and my mom were gonna go out for Thanksgiving dinner food.
Right.
You know, I want everyone in the town to see the big shot just got home from doing some jail time, you know.
Right. Because now you got street cred.
You know. And we got into a car accident, right? So like, you know, a car hit her side and you know, unfortunately she passed away.
Oh no.
You know? So
I'm sorry. That's rough.
so once that happened, right, like I was kind of like that was like, you know, I had some like road rash on my face from the like the airbag, and you know, there was some you know, blood and stuff on both parties, and
Mm-hmm.
the guy was arrested on the spot for drinking, and you know, it's just an ugly scene. My dad was working at this place, and they didn't have cell phones at the time because you know this was a long time ago, and felt like
Right.
the ambulance took forever to come, and whatever the case was just it was an ugly scene. Like I was drunk at the funeral, high at the wake, you know, vice versa, whatever, and that was really it. Then I was just like, I'm just gonna drink and drug myself to death. Like I don't really care anymore.
Right.
That was
Right.
what I had. You know, after my mom passed, you know, things with my dad got worse because he blamed me every day for the accident. You know,
Right.
and I was like stigmatized as this murderer who killed his mom right before Thanksgiving. And in actuality, you know, I carried that around with me for a long time.
I can imagine.
Up until maybe a couple of years ago when I actually started working the steps of my program, did I actually really learn forgiveness for myself? You know,
Right.
which is the miracle of being in recovery. Just so we know, this whole story isn't dark. So like after that, I just did a lot of, you know, bouncing around. You know, like my dad didn't want me there. He died 3 years after, or 4 years after my mom.
Mm-hmm.
But in that 4 years, I was just like living on a couch or living at a girlfriend's house or staying here or staying there. I never really had like a real home, right? And of course, I never really had a family, right?
Right, right.
We were just, our family was just like crazy, you know?
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, even looking at your dad, who you said was an addict, you know, an alcoholic, the logic of an addict to come at you and call you those things because abusing her was okay. You know, beating her was okay. You know, he didn't do anything wrong. It was, you know, it was you. It was you.
Right, right.
You know,
And
even though
her,
somebody else hit the car.
and he blamed her, of course, too, you know, like, so.
Oh, right,
Well,
right.
when she was alive, it was all about other people, not him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just a very good example of that addict thinking, you know, and lack of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I bounced around and I love doing it, right? Because I would rent a room somewhere in the Bronx and like it'd be like $60 a week. And I'd like pay 4 weeks in advance. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna leave here, go somewhere else. Because I didn't like to like be committed to anything. I didn't really want to take responsibility. I didn't want to be a grown-up. I just wanted to be like, you know, my mom's dead. God did me wrong. This is what I'm gonna do.
Right.
So I ended up in the Bronx, Fordham Road, and I was out there for like 15 years, you know, and that was where I was introduced to, you know, crack cocaine. You know, I would come home from work. I finally did, you know, corrupt another diner into hiring me, even though I had a bad reputation. And I would get home from Eastchester, which is in Westchester County, to the Bronx, which the train system is so slow. I would be like an hour and a half ride. And all I would want to do was smoke a joint when I get home, drink some beer. But nothing, all the drug dealers would be gone. You know, you get off at the Fordham train station, the weed dealers are either high, sold all of it, or are gone.
Right.
So then you get all the other interesting drugs out there, like the heroin, you know, and the crack cocaine. And I was like, what is the lesser of two evils here? Because the guy that lives next to me in this room has lesions all over his face and is skinny and looks like he's dying, and he does heroin. And maybe if I smoke crack, I won't look that bad.
Right. And like our logic is amazing.
Crazy, right? So
every addict has their line, at least for a little while.
It's just crack, guys. Relax, right?
Right.
Not a big deal. Calm down. We're just smoking crack. But I loved it, you know, like I could only say that the first sip of beer I ever took, I chased that first sip, taste, feeling, high, euphoria throughout my entire addiction. It just so happened that no matter how much I did, drank or smoked, I never got that first sip feeling.
Right, right.
It was chasing that first high because I'm 8. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was no other kid in the world was doing it. It made me feel special. I didn't have to be myself. I didn't have to be anyone. I didn't have to be my father's son.
Right.
Some guy just having a couple drinks like normal people. But unfortunately, I'm not a normal person, you know? So before I met my wife, the room I was staying in had a lamp and a table in it. Nothing else. There's no bed, no mattress, nothing. And but I was able to get high anytime I wanted, right? So I was
right, that's what counts.
good to go. But here I am. I meet this woman, and she actually loved me, right? And she actually thought I was, you know, a good person, and you know, I didn't have to, you know, tell her who I really was. You know, she was just happy to have me, right? But I was a complete asshole, right? Like, let's be honest. I abused the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I knew that she would do anything for me. I knew that, yes, I was paying all the rent. Yes, we were renting the house in my name. Yes, all the stuff we bought in there was mine for my money. But how did I really get that money? Right? I was working in a restaurant that had no computer systems, where I was just like stealing money off the tables like an animal. Right? Yeah, I came to Staten Island stacked with like 8 G's, but I didn't work for any of that money. There was no integrity involved. There was
Right.
no honor involved. I wasn't proud of that. And I was still addicted to crack cocaine. So like I moved in with this woman and I'm like, yo, maybe I could just drink beer and smoke weed, which often in a 12-step program, they say, the beer and weed diet. They refer to that
Yeah.
in one of our readings, and it never works out because, it's cunning, baffling, and powerful. It lies, cheats, and steals, right? And it still steals from me to this day, even
Mm-hmm.
in recovery, and I'll get to that. So I became a great liar. I was always a great liar. I was always a great manipulator. I was always a great thief. I was always a great, con man. I was always but I wasn't a great person, right? I wasn't even a good person. I was the kind of guy that would wake up, drink himself half to death, show up at a store and disrespect an old lady and laugh about it later on by myself. That's the spiritual malady I was talking about earlier.
Right.
Where you're broken inside, not just in your mind. It's everywhere.
Right. I used to call it the black spot on my soul that I couldn't figure out, Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it. I'm going to use that, by the way.
Go for it.
So I'm out there, right? And everything's cool. She's got 2 sisters who are engaged to like really successful guys. And here I am. Oh, and we need to rewind a minute because I forgot the coup de grace, the story. So I had mentioned earlier, I used to give money to drug dealers, counterfeit money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one of the drug dealers I gave the counterfeit money to recognized me before I moved out to Staten Island. And they saw me on Fordham Road and they shot me.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
So it wasn't.
Yeah, you skipped over that part.
It wasn't like, I was very lucky because it was in my knee.
Right.
But should have been a God shot for me, right? Like, hey, this is tragic. You already survived prison. You've already survived a car accident with your mom. You've survived traumatic child abuse. And you've also, survived, just being like not loved as a kid.
Right.
Now,
Right.
you're shot. Wake up. Let's just be a good person.
Right.
But we don't want to do that. We can't do it.
Mm-mm. Too much work.
Too much work. So naturally, I just played it to the bone, right? I showed up to Staten Island with staples in my knee and on crutches. And, the father's an ex-correction officer at the same prison I was in Rikers Island, 20-something years ago. And I'm not saying he recognized me, but for God's sakes, it's a possibility, right?
Right.
And I just off the bat just felt so uncomfortable. Like, like they didn't accept me. And it brought me all the way back to childhood. Like wasn't accepted at home, wasn't accepted in school, bullied in prison and bullied in school and bullied up at the big school. It's just that whole like insecure feeling that you get.
Yeah.
Not being
it. It wasn't like it was going to magically just, fix itself or go away.
So after that, I'd say it was so I also have to be real honest, right? Because I don't really say this to many people, but there's about 4 of us in here, and one person I know really well, so I've already told this story too. So I didn't just leave for Staten Island with my tail tucked between my legs.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had gone back to that same area where he lived, and I actually shot him back.
The retaliation.
And unfortunately, to this day, he's in a wheelchair.
Mm.
Not up until I actually started to pray and meditate and go to meetings and read the literature, work with a sponsor, do my steps, where I actually realized the guilt that I now the guilt actually is there. You know,
Right.
then it was something funny to talk about. Like, who gets to really say I crippled someone and walked away and got into trouble?
Right. It was like some kind of ego trip, badge of honor thing then, you know.
But I suffer from nightmares to this day. Uh, I may not have the same nightmare every night, but it's there.
Well, I can
I,
imagine. I mean, it might be self-inflicted, but in the end, it doesn't matter. It's trauma. You know, not all of it is self-inflicted, but, you know, a lot of us, our choices led to these consequences, but trauma is trauma and PTSD is PTSD,
yeah. So
you know.
I'm so happy you brought that up, because not a lot of times in recovery do people actually talk about mental health issues.
Yeah,
You know, and I think they kind of run parallel with each other.
I
You know,
do too.
like, I have post-traumatic stress disorder. I have childhood trauma from my father abusing me and my mom and being defenseless and having to watch it. And, you know, quite recently, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic, obsessive compulsive disorder,
Hmm.
right? Um,
Well, your life was chaos. So, you know, not to get all psychologist here, but it would make sense that you would want some control and order, you know, over that.
Definitely. And you know, it's all about like, and I'm used to routines, because, you know, everywhere I've been in my life, there's been nothing but routines. And like I said, I adapt real quick to that kind of thing. But if I can control the routines, then I feel my best. Like, I'm not anxious, I'm not anxiety. Um, so eventually all the lies came out with my wife,
Mhm.
and she went ahead and left. She took all the furniture, all the cool stuff, and I got the cat, right? My 1-year-old cat at the time. So, you know, I figured, you know, another geographical switch would be great, you know, but as they tell us, you know, no matter where you go, there we are,
Yeah, we
right?
go
So
with
like,
you. Yep.
it really didn't matter where I went. I could have went to Guam and I would have still been the same scumbag that I was when I was in the Bronx. So it didn't matter. But anyway, I go out to Buffalo, and I take this job in an attorney's office collecting debt, because, you know, it's a scam, it's all BS, and I'm good at lying, cheating, and stealing anyway. So why not honor some of these wonderful qualities I've acquired over life and use them to my advantage, right? I made a lot of money out there, but I was really depressed and I was suicidal,
Hmm.
and it was like 40 degrees below zero in the middle of the winter. And I found myself in that same room that I was in Fordham Road, with bed bugs all over, roaches, that lamp, and a table. And I was sleeping on the floor with no pillow, because that's what my apartment looked like again.
Right. Full
So
circle.
just no television or nothing, right?
How did you survive?
My funny notion, of course, was, as an addict, to get back at everybody, you know, teach them a lesson, God too, right?
Hmm.
So I had made this thing. I was going to smother my cat and I was going to blow my brains out,
Mm.
you know, because I didn't want my cat to be without me, and I certainly didn't want to be without her. So we were going to go out together, right? But I couldn't kill that goddamn cat. Couldn't do it, man. And maybe that was another God shot, or maybe that was, you know, divine intervention or someone stepping in. But if you don't think that's God, I don't
Yeah,
know.
because I mean, well, think about it. Had she not left the cat, you know, I mean, you laugh because it's like friggin' cat, you know, but yeah, had she not left the cat. So yeah, I'm the kind of person that believes that the cat absolutely was left there, you know, as a God thing, you
Right,
know,
right,
100%.
right. So naturally, I call an old girlfriend of mine. She comes and gets me the next day after I tell her what happened. And then she brings me out to Stamford, Connecticut.
Hmm.
Big old city, a lot of people, a lot of money. And of course, it's easy for an alcoholic and a drug addict to get a job.
No, right.
Keep a job, that's a whole other story. So like the funny story is my ex-wife found a crack pipe of mine that I had hidden inside of the couch. And I actually tried to accuse my wife's father of it, but she wasn't buying that. I was at that point the wheels were way off the
Really?
bus, and I was
Dad
just
did
trying to
it? That's
do
where you were going?
the wheels were way off the bus. So I was like, you know what, this is crazy. But I guess the best like this is like where it all turned around, like because like I'm in Stanford, of course I found crack again, of course I'm drinking again. I'm moving again from place to place, and nothing's steady. And it's like December of 2018. I'd say the last couple of weeks of the month, I was staying in this rooming house, and I wasn't paying the lady any money. I told her I was like a dog walker, so in the morning I'd be gone. But really, what I'd be doing is panhandling down the block at my local ShopRite, trying to get enough money to buy a bottle of vodka and some crack, and using my unemployment money to buy, whatever I wanted. So I was just abusing the system, and I got evicted, right? And my cat and I are out in the street, and I was able to get a buddy of mine to use some of his like comps for a hotel in the local area. Anyway, it was like a 4-day stay. I was there, and I thought I was the man too. It was like New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and I'm in a hotel on the 12th floor, and there's an ice machine right next door to my door, and I've already uncorked like the alarm system so I could smoke crack in the room, and I'm like, I'm on top of the world now, right, bro? I'm like balling. Like my cup says, it's your day. See, my coffee cup says, it's your day. That was my day right there. And it was great, but it was also all a lie.
Right.
Because I had to surrender my animal to a shelter for, abandoned cats and pets.
Hmm.
I couldn't take care of her anymore. And my stay at the hotel was over. And it was time for me to, after 12 years, say goodbye to her. And I'd love to say that my last drink of alcohol was like, a rocks glass full of like Remy Martin with my pinky in the air.
Right.
But
Right.
in actuality, I was one store over from the men's homeless shelter with a half a bag of belongings that I acquired over 40 something years. And I was smoking crack out of a pipe that was worn down to a nub and
Mhm.
drinking vodka out of a Gatorade bottle.
Yeah, and the cat was gone. That is so sad. I mean, really is. That is so sad, especially, I don't know. I know it, again, it seems ridiculous. Like, really, the cat? Like, yeah, the cats, the cat was an important part of the story.
Definitely an important part of the story.
Yeah.
So that first night, one of the guys did bed check. 16 people in one room, metal beds. They refused to give us pillows or blankets. So I used my jacket that had mad holes in it everywhere because, of course, that would be where I stashed all my shit, right?
Mhm.
And my and that was my pillow. I know my bag of belongings was my pillow, and my jacket was my blanket. And the guy came in, and he announced in the room that there's an AA meeting down the block at 7:30 if anyone's interested. And I was like, I didn't know at that moment what I was saying. I was like, where is it?
Right.
And everybody in the room busted out laughing. And I say this with all gratitude and humility that I went that day and they didn't, and those people are still homeless today. And I
Wow.
pray for them that they get the same miracle I did.
Right.
First, I thought I was better than them. And in actuality, it took me to get knocked on my ass in my recovery harder than I've ever been knocked on my ass before to get the message.
Right.
So here we are, I'm in this shelter, and I've never seen my birth certificate in my whole life, right? I've
Oh,
never
wow.
had an ID, right? I've never had nothing. So I went through all the struggles with the help of one counselor who believed in me, got me all my paperwork, and 4 months into being in the homeless shelter, I got a job that I actually earned and that I actually respected. And up until a couple of months ago, actually liked, you know? So
Up until a couple of months ago.
we'll get to that, for God's sake. Come on, we got some time left. It's Friday night.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going out.
right, where are we going, right?
Right.
Drinking coffee like old people, right?
Right.
Um,
And some of us can't even do that if we be up all night.
amen. Amen. So I got this job, right? And it was 4 months into being clean and sober, right? And I'm not gonna sit here and lie like everybody thinks that automatically you get into recovery and automatically you're recovered from a hopelessly meaning state of body and mind. No, you got to really put in the work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And for a long time, I really put in the work for a long time. So I'm 4 months sober. I'm collecting chips every other month or every month, and it's very exciting. And I'm really, like resistant to get a sponsor, resistant to work the steps, because still in my mind, I could do everything on my own. I don't need anyone because look, I survived this, and this. I don't need anyone to help me do this. Because this isn't as big as that was, or that was, or that was. But in actuality, this was the biggest thing I ever did in my life.
Right. Right.
So I started working with a sponsor, and he pushed me through the first 3 steps. So when I did the 3rd step, that was like when the miracles really started happening for me. Because I let a power greater than myself take the wheel. And as we all know, I'm not really a good driver anyway.
Lord,
So
not go there.
obviously God
Oh, he
taking
did
the
not
wheel,
go there.
God taking the wheel was probably the best option.
Right. Right.
But that was when I let down the ego and the BS and the attitude and I had humility for a while. 4 months after that, 8 months into my recovery, I got accepted into a sober living facility closer to my job. But in between that, the rules at the shelter were this: if you didn't come back at a certain time and you were not a full-time technical employee, that you couldn't sign in for your bed after like 10 o'clock.
Right.
Some of the shifts that I worked ran past 10 o'clock.
Mm.
So I'd bring my clothes with me to work, take a little bird bath after my shift, go sleep at the park, and then come back to work after my meeting the next morning.
That was, now that's, I mean, you hear you've got to chase that recovery like you chase that drug, and that's some dedication right there.
So I get in this sober living house, and for a while it was okay to live there, right? It was clean. It wasn't, they didn't have people that didn't care living there. But COVID hit and everything just went to, like people started getting high. There was prostitution, there was crack, there was needles everywhere.
Yep.
Hands on the steps, loud stuff all night. I'm going outside, bare chested, trying to chase people off my porch,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still in recovery and I'm watching all this stuff. And I'm probably like, well, COVID hit, I was like over a year by then, and I got 70, 80 hours at my job a week, and I was pulling down nice money. And here's the problem though. Like I just bought all this stuff that really didn't mean anything to me. I was just trying to fill that void from
That hole. I was just going to say, still trying to fill that hole. Yeah. Yeah.
So I bought all this clothes and hats and a watch and sneakers and TVs and It wasn't up until June where all that stuff really didn't matter.
Right.
So I'm working there and everything's going good, and I'm respected there, and I'm a co-worker. I'm a worker among men. I'm loyal. I'm dedicated. I'm always on time. I'm always clean. I'm not drinking. I'm energetic. You know, hit my 2-year mark, right? And I was at the job. It was the longest job I ever had, right? I'm just gonna skibble through all the stuff because at this point I'm already working the steps. I got
Right.
caught on step 4 for like 9.5 to 10 months because it was just like I made it out to be the worst thing ever, which in actuality it takes you 40 minutes to do it, but like 20 hours to write it.
Right.
Isn't that how they say it or something like that? And I got lucky with a Zoom meeting. I had the honor and privilege of being one of the liaisons for a pretty decent sized 10 o'clock Zoom meeting. And I did it for a long time.
Yeah, I think Zoom saved a lot of people, but when it came to meetings.
So the
Really
problem
did.
is over time, I started to lose things. I started to lose interest in actually helping others, which is all just my old behaviors coming out.
Right.
And I also started getting an ego again, because people were giving me compliments and respecting me. And I'm like, damn, these people are all over me. Like, am I really this great? That's all just crap, right? Because I'm still just Chris in recovery, right?
Yeah, and it's funny, we've got to remember that because when people talk about relapse, they think the actual physical, but we start relapsing way before we relapse, and we relapse mentally, and then we relapse emotionally, and then finally, and this can take months for this.
How I haven't done it yet by now is amazing. Because I'll tell you, my I allowed a lot of my old addict behavior to come back into my current life.
Mm-hmm.
I, without even knowing, started manipulating again. And I, without even knowing, was being jealous again and controlling and possessive and just your garden variety jerk off, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why we need vigilance and accountability.
So when I was doing what I was doing, I really didn't care about anyone's feelings. I made my amends. Let's not, I got to work the 12 steps.
Right.
But making amends really isn't like not doing it again. Making amends is really clearing the boards. But if you do it again, what does the amends really mean?
Right.
To the next person. Like, aren't you making amends to protect the next person from the same crap that you put them through? So when I finally did my step 4, I realized that I never even really loved my wife. I really just loved the idea of having a woman love me. I didn't know what true love was until recently.
Wow.
So I'm no longer in Stamford, Connecticut. For 3 weeks now, I've been living in Virginia Beach with a friend of mine. He's in recovery as well. One of the same people I met at that first AA meeting I ever went to. Before I moved out here, my cat passed away.
Jeez. Chris, this cat's killing us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Poor baby. But
So
yeah, that's a hell of a thing, though. I mean, that's a profound realization,
um,
you know, that really is. A lot of people would not have even gone there.
I won't use the cat as an excuse for everything that happened. I
Mhm.
lost myself way before that.
Right.
I this is going to be kind of hard to say, right?
Hmm.
But isn't it always supposed to help another person by saying what I'm saying? I I was lucky enough to meet somebody, right? I hadn't been with a woman in any way in 12 years since my wife left.
Oh, wow.
And I got lucky, right? And of course, promises are just words. That's what a wise woman once told me. And I saw a post today on Facebook. I think one of the recovery people said, what's the point of saying sorry if the behavior doesn't change?
Right.
I think Sal said that actually. Sal, recovery Sal might have, big up to him.
I am
Might have,
not surprised.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
he might have posted that. Um, so here I am. I'm in a situation where I found this person,
Hmm.
but unfortunately, I had wasn't focused on the right things. I loved her. Yeah, I still do. To this day, eternally, I will. But in the beginning, I just cared about, does she like me because of who I am? Am I good enough? She's beautiful. I'm not. Why does she want me? All this dumb crap. And it was just, I piled on, piled on, piled
Hmm.
on. It's embarrassing because
Well, we do love to self-sabotage.
it's my favorite hobby, next to fly,
Yeah.
right? Uh,
Now we'll tell ourselves that we are not good enough, that we are not worthy, that we are not, and we'll start believing it. We will start
right.
believing it and then go on and ruin, you know, the self-fulfilling prophecy will go on and will ruin whatever we got going. Yep.
So I did the same shit I did and blew it all, right? It was like 50 or 40 or 50 days ago, this whole thing imploded. And I don't know how I've stayed sober this whole time. I'm grateful that we still are friends and get to talk every day and every night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I'm worthy of that. And like I said, sorry is just words, right? And what's the point of saying sorry if you don't change the behavior?
Right. Right. Now, are you still doing meetings and working with the sponsor and et cetera, et cetera?
This probably isn't going to be the best message to send these lovely 3 folks watching.
Well, no, I mean, it might. And remember, your YouTube
I
video is going to hit a lot more people. And what
know.
we're seeing is the struggle. And, depending on your next answer, we're seeing why the struggle is so hard right now.
Right. So haven't talked to my sponsor since this whole thing went down. Maybe once for 5 minutes. He doesn't even know I'm in Virginia Beach right now. He doesn't know anything. I haven't gone to a meeting in I came to one when I first got here just to test it out, see what it's like in live. But before that, I hadn't been to a meeting maybe a week and a half. You know, I'm not going. I haven't been to a meeting since the live one I went to, except for maybe one self-help one, but it wasn't really AA related or anything. See, I'm not even effectively working a program at this point because I'm completely mentally and emotionally shut down.
Right. Right. And that's the place, if we don't get out of there, there's only one step left.
Right. And I mean,
You know?
like, I know that there's some sort of a God out there, guaranteed, because if I didn't have him to look to, then I think I would have already been relapsed by now.
Right.
So I could say that's a positive.
You know, and
Yeah,
maybe
guys.
tonight and getting all of this out and getting all of this out in the open, you know, this is sharing. This is therapeutic. You know, whether if it's with 3 people, what do they say? Two people make a meeting.
And a coffee pot of resentment.
So, you know, you're getting out there and you're sharing, and maybe this is your turning point.
And that's why I'm so happy that this whole thing between me and you happened, because like I'm really grateful that it's taking place, because like I haven't helped even myself. I mean, I have done things to better myself in these like 50 days, not recovery wise, but in other ways, have done some self-help things. You know, I just started a job today, got full day of work, and, you know, I felt really good. You know, I still suffer from that anxiety though. And like, you know, like I can't like sleep good, and the nightmares, and, you know, I live with a lot of the regret, and it's not even the regret in the past. It's like what I did lately in my recovery. Cause like, aren't in recovery we supposed to be like doing better?
Right.
Almost 3 years in, aren't I supposed to be like somebody who can love someone with honor and respect?
Right. But it all depends on what we're working on too.
Right.
You know?
Now
So
that's
it's like,
now I've switched gears and started working on that aspect.
yes.
Clearly, you know, I'm interested in, you know, making right on what I did wrong and fulfilling my promises that I made, you know. And I don't want them to just look like words, you know. And then I gotta, you know, I'm just like, gotta get that back, and I gotta get my recovery back on track. And I know I can balance everything because I've done it before. Really, work, you know, a friend, you know, that you're talking to, and like, you know, a recovery program. Like, isn't that like normal shit? Like, I just got lazy, you know, and I got complacent. I thought I had it all figured out, and I really don't know nothing. That's really period end of story.
Right. And I think the most important thing, see, I think the best thing that anybody can take away from this is, when I asked you if you wanted to come on this show and share, you could have said, hell no. No. You know, I haven't shared at a meeting. I haven't even gone to a meeting and sat silent, like I'm going to sit and, you know, pour my heart out to you. And yet here you are, you've gotten honest with anyone on the live, anybody who's going to watch this video or listen to the podcast, you know, in the future. And so I think the best thing that people can take away from this is, yeah, you have to get honest. You have to get that toxic crap out. You know, I hate cliches. And when I went to the 12-step meetings, I hated their stupid cliches. And then I learned cliches are cliches for a reason. And so when they say secrets make us sick, you know, it's like, shut up. As I'm sitting there with all my secrets feeling sick. You know?
My biggest one I hated was don't quit till the miracle happens.
Oh God, I know.
Because I am an addict and I want everything to happen now. When's this miracle gonna happen? You know?
I know. So I mean, you know, getting all this out in the open and really talking it out, and it's okay. So I know I being Chris, I know exactly what I need to do, you know,
Right, right.
and a little bit of accountability, you know, telling it to other people.
Here was the beauty about when I finally realized what "Don't Quit Till a Miracle Happens," right? Because I didn't know what they really were talking about, right?
Right.
But the miracle really is that you get to live a normal life.
Mhm.
Right? You don't eat out of garbage cans anymore, and you don't sleep on pebbles, and you don't, you know, go to jail anymore. And you get to work and be a productive member of society, a present participant in your own life. There's another
Mhm.
one of our phrases that we know, you
Yeah.
know. But the
Yeah.
miracle
One of
really
the
is,
best things a friend of mine actually said to me was, you know, you are present and accounted for as a mother. I was like, yeah, I am.
but the funny thing is you're not a scumbag anymore, right? You don't
Mhm.
reek a liquor anymore. Nobody hides their wallet when I walk in the room.
Right.
Um, every woman I ever dated that had children hated my guts and active addiction. Hated my guts. Because kids know truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kids know evil. Pets and kids, my opinion. They got the best thing. They had the best thing going when it comes to knowing.
Except that one cat. She could clearly see the good in you.
Right. Well, look what that got her, right?
Hey, she was like 12.
Man. But like I get to like connect with a child on a different, like there's like you can't make that kind of stuff up with this kind of a program.
Right.
You can't make you can't just expect to change on your own just because you've been sober for a while.
Right.
This is
Right.
not a marathon. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do this every day the right way, or you're gonna, either you something end up getting dragged. I don't know the whole phrase. That's one of the newer ones I'm not hip to, but
Right. But yeah, and don't doubt your message, because this is one though that really is, it's always a win-win, because the person telling their story is essentially sharing, and the people listening, there might be somebody out there listening thinking, oh shit, I'm going down the same path, these guys are right. I got to get it together here, or I know what's coming. So, this, aside from helping someone else, it's okay to take something from this for yourself. Like I also helped myself with
right.
this, so I think this is a great interview. I think there's a lot of good that's going to come out of this. We are definitely going to get back in touch with you in a few months, and we'll interview you and we'll see where you're at. And
I won't be in Virginia Beach in 3 months. That's for sure.
You don't like Virginia Beach?
I only got one mission. Not going to be here. Guaranteed.
Gotcha. But yeah, and I think you can do this. I know you can do this. I know other people know you can do this. And you've definitely got, just from reading the comments on the live and stuff, you got some good people in your corner, and yeah, definitely keep in touch. Of course, you can message me anytime if you need me, but also keep me updated and everything. And I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for, giving up an hour or so plus of your time, and really just being so honest and raw and real. I appreciate it.
I I owe my entire life to this program. I'm indebted more than 1 hour of my life. My first sponsor told me if you put half the work into your recovery as you did getting high and drunk, you may stay sober forever.
Exactly. Exactly. Well,
And
that's gonna.
I wanted to thank you because, like,
Oh,
when I first started doing TikTok, right, like I couldn't get any likes or anyone to view my things for anything. And I think you and Kimmy were like
huh?
the first two people to ever duet one of my videos. You did the one about the 12.
Cracked me up.
Like I knew you, like a lot of people hated that video, but it wasn't me judging anyone. It was
No,
just
I thought it was so funny.
yeah, it was,
You've got, I think what a lot of people forget, and you should take your recovery seriously. Absolutely. But I am one of those people, where I grew up with old school parents, Scottish parents that said you can laugh or you can cry. These are your two choices, and I've always chosen to laugh. And I know you were getting a lot of, heat for that video. And so I shared it. And I'm like, look, this is comedy gold right here.
and so many people came over from you and liked me, and then all of a sudden I had like 1,000 followers. Like, what the hell happened here? I'm what?
That is so awesome. That's awesome. And you know what? On that happy note, that's going to do it for us at the recovery scene. We hope that you really liked this. This was probably one of our most powerful interviews. And we will definitely check in with Chris again. And like I said, share this, and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.